another episode of Between You and Me. We are back in my bedroom and we are cozy. I'm back from vacation. So, hey, good to see ya. I had a lovely time. I don't know if you guys can tell if you guys are watching me. I got so freaking tan. Like, I didn't expect to get that tan, but then again, like, it doesn't hit 12 UV here in Canada. So I'm like, okay, makes sense. And I'm half Filipino, so that side really took its place in my genetics and in my DNA. You probably can't tell because I decided to put a hoodie on today. It's gloomy. It's like, can you believe it? I was in the sun, in the beach, having a fun time. I come home and this is what I'm greeted with. Clouds. It is extremely hot though, but just clouds and gloom and doom. Also, my hair is wet, so I don't know how much you guys can see that. And I'm sorry if you guys can see it because it's probably just not really that cute. But what am I going to do, you know? Nothing, truly. So today I wanted to go back to a topic that I've talked about in depth as my very first episode on this podcast, and it was how I deal with my anxiety. The difference between these two episodes is that I made that episode when I was freshly 23 or just about to turn 23, and now I am 25. A lot of time has passed since that last episode, and although I do touch on anxiety a lot, I feel like it's like the main topic that I talk about in this podcast, I haven't really readdressed how to heal anxiety within yourself and the ways that I have continued to learn how to heal my anxiety. What I talked about in that first episode, if you guys want to go back and listen to it first, it'll probably help you guys understand this episode a little bit more, was a lot of my history with how I have learned about how I personally deal with anxiety and what kind of the root causes are for me personally. And within the past couple years, I've definitely experienced more anxiety, but also learned to look at it from a different perspective. And that has greatly helped the way that I can heal my anxiety. And unfortunately, I spoke to my very first therapist about this, and she asked me what my goals were when it came to anxiety. And I said, I just don't want to feel anxious. Like, I literally just don't want to have anxiety. And she said, well, you know what? This is a part of you the same way it is a part of anyone who deals with anxiety. And a better way to look at it is how to not make anxiety the number one thing in your life and be able to work with it rather than get rid of it. This is very important because it is my overall formula on how to handle your anxiety, how to deal with it, how to heal it, and how to allow yourself to live a fulfilling life even if you may have anxiety. So I do have a little iced espresso next to me. I'm going to take a quick sip. ASMR for my listeners. Before we get into it, I did want to talk to you guys about a little bit about like my history when it comes to anxiety. Like I said, that first episode that I recorded gives a lot more. Like I get into stories, like I tell you guys what my childhood was like when it comes to my anxiety. But obviously I feel like I need to give you guys a little bit of context. When I was younger, I definitely experienced a lot of anxiety. It was extremely subconscious to a certain extent, which I will get into when it comes to conscious and subconscious anxiety, but I obviously wasn't old enough, mature enough, and knowledgeable enough to know what were the reasons that I was experiencing anxiety. Because of that, it ended up being something that I had to deal with by myself because I couldn't communicate to other people that I was feeling this overwhelming amount of fear for normal life events. And I ended up making it a part of myself that I disliked, that I really hated, that I was like, Why am I so afraid of being separated from my parents? Why am I so afraid of going to school every day? Why can't I just be normal like the other kids? I'm not good enough. I'm not, strong enough. And like so many of these beliefs were integrated inside of me at a young age that I ended up eventually unknowingly holding on to them for a really long amount of time. I'm still working through my anxiety, guys. So when I say how to heal anxiety, this is, like I said, my formula that has helped me get out of anxious phases in my life so many times, and is probably the reason that I have been able to get out of these anxious spirals and return to like a calm state of mind over and over again, and be able to live with the anxiety rather than have it control my life. So in 2020, I think I started going to therapy for the first time, and that therapist was able to diagnose me with general anxiety disorder. I think possibly this is the most common diagnosis of anxiety. General anxiety disorder is basically when you are feeling anxious about any type of scenario, any type of situation, any subject. It's not specific to one thing, which is why it's generalized anxiety disorder. There's also many other diagnoses you could get. There's panic disorder, where you suffer from a lot of panic attacks. There is specific phobias that you can have, whether it be, heights, big crowds, animals, insects, objects. There's also social anxiety, which I know a lot of people suffer with and experience, and it prevents them from experiencing life, which is agoraphobia, I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, I could be wrong. But agoraphobia is when you actually limit things in your life just to not experience anxiety. If you have social anxiety, you don't leave the house anymore. If you have a specific phobia of like open roads when you're driving, you don't drive anymore. That's when you stop yourself from experiencing a regular life because the anxiety is that intense. And then other things like separation anxiety, attachment issues, and things like that. I think I'm a little cocktail of a little bit of separation anxiety along with generalized anxiety disorder. I think now I've learned in my life a lot of my anxiety is rooted from my childhood, which probably came from attachment styles, right? That's what I've learned thus far in therapy, which I want to book another therapy appointment, but that's another subject. Anyways, I know this might be repetitive for some of you guys who have this is probably, I want to say, it's not the first podcast you've listened to on anxiety. If it is, welcome. I'm so happy to be your first. But if not, this will be a little repetitive. I did want to talk about what exactly is anxiety. The way I describe it is the feelings of fear, dread, and uneasiness that occurs as a reaction to any kind of stress in your life. That could sound really lackluster, but that's just a really broad description. I know people experience anxiety to such a higher degree, so do I. But when I say fear, dread, and uneasiness, like those can scale from 100 to like 10. What happens when you're experiencing anxiety, in very layman terms, is the amygdala, which is a part of your brain that is reacting to a situation, a person, a place, or a thing. And your mind and your body is seeing this situation, person, place, and thing as a threat to your safety. This actually is a very normal response for your body. I'm sure you guys have heard this before. If a bear was running at you, if a car was about to hit you, it's normal that your amygdala reacts. It sends out the stress hormones, it sends out the adrenaline to your whole entire body, and it gives you the ability to fight or flight. Okay? Now, depending on who you are as a person, you'll immediately go to fight or you'll immediately go to flight. And like I said, it's a very natural response to truly life-threatening situations. But what makes it an anxiety disorder is when you're feeling these emotions and reactions with very basic life situations, with stressful situations, and with situations that are not life-threatening, basically. The reason that so many people experience anxiety, I don't know. I looked it up because I was reflecting, like literally the other day. I went to watch Inside Out 2, which I want to talk about later because it literally relates to this so much. But I was thinking about the fact that everyone was like posting on TikTok and being like, oh, Inside Out 2 is so good. It's made for the adults. They're gonna get it. They're gonna understand. And spoiler alert, it is introducing the character anxiety. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, why do so many of us relate? So many of us understand the crippling feeling of anxiety. I looked it up. Apparently, there's no fucking explanation for why our generation is filled with anxious people. There's a plethora of reasons that people have come up with, whether it be social media, like the current media of today, people's diet intake, exercise, and also lack of documenting people with anxiety in the past. So maybe we just didn't know everyone was still crippled with anxiety. But I don't know, maybe it's the human condition. Who knows? Don't have an answer for that, unfortunately. But I want to explain how I interpret anxiety, and it has very much to do with how I choose to heal. Okay, so this could be very different. I've never heard anybody explain it this way before, and it's just the way that I've experienced it in my life. So that's the way that I like to describe it to other people. But I like to talk about anxiety in two ways and how people are triggered in two ways. I think that there's body anxiety and there's mind anxiety. This is based on absolutely no scientific information, okay? So just know that. This is based on my life experience. But in my experience, both are interconnected, obviously. But there can be situations that are going on chemically inside of your body that are heightening the feelings of anxiety. There can be a disruption in your hormones. There can be issues with your gut health, which is where all of your stress hormones are. Your body can harbor stress over time when you are not finding ways to release it through exercise, through breathing, through, whatever it might be. And there's probably many, many more, like a poor diet, multiple different things that can contribute to why you feel anxiety within your body, and you might not understand why in your mind, okay? Then there's mind anxiety, and I've kind of explained this before in previous episodes, but where I think mind anxiety is rooted from is obviously any type of life experience that has changed the way you believe things about yourself. Everything comes from a root cause, a situation in your life, a person in your life, the way you were brought up, potentially. Things like this have changed the way you now believe things about the world, things about yourself, things about other people. And these core beliefs have stuck inside of you. And these bring out your thoughts, emotions, and reactions. Your thoughts, emotions, and reactions are triggered by the anxiety based on these beliefs. Now, I hope that made sense, but to give you guys an example, if you suffer from social anxiety, let's say you were brought up in a way where your parents didn't want you around a lot of people when you were younger. Maybe they had social anxiety of their own, right? Maybe they didn't feel confident in the state of your home, or that you could provide for your friends for coming over. I don't know, I'm trying to think of a random idea, but let's say that was your situation. You weren't brought up with a lot of people around you. You didn't really learn how to socialize and interact with others. So now you've developed this social anxiety. You still don't know how to act around other people. You feel very nervous in public situations. You don't know how to go up to people and talk to people because you've created the belief inside of you that you are not capable of socializing. You are not capable of making friends. You're not capable of going out of your house and experiencing new things with people around. Now, because of how you were brought up, the life experience, you've created this belief. This belief has carried on with you throughout your life. And now you're in this situation where your thoughts are reinforcing this belief. You're thinking to yourself, no, I can't do it. I don't know how I'm going to be able to make friends. I don't know how I'm going to be able to leave the house and experience life. Your emotions are reacting to this thought. Now you're feeling anxious. Now you're feeling worked up. You're overthinking. You're, feeling sad. You're thinking, I'll never be able to make friends. I'll always be this way. And based on these thoughts and emotions, your reaction is to do nothing to change it. It's to stay inside. It's to not go out and experience life. It's to not make new friends, because everything goes back to that initial core belief that you cannot socialize. I hope that made sense. Just using that specific example, it shows you how the mind works, how complex it is, and how the anxiety is triggered by this belief that you had. It takes so much dissection, to sometimes at least, to be able to figure out what that root cause is and what the anxiety is trying to protect you from. So when it comes to mental anxiety, I personally have experienced it in interchangeable ways, but I think that your mental anxiety, overthinking, rumination, negative thinking patterns, this can easily trigger your body to feel anxious. I think how people feel anxiety in their body changes from person to person, but really common symptoms are a racing heart, you can't breathe very well, your chest feels tight, you're sweating a lot, you don't feel hungry, your digestion's really messed up, sometimes you feel nauseous, right? There's a lot of things that are not coming to my mind at the moment, but I'm sure if you've experienced anxiety, you know how it feels for you. For me, it's really in my stomach and in my chest, and it's a really heavy feeling. That's the body anxiety. And the mental anxiety will trigger my body to react in that way. Sometimes the body anxiety is powerful enough to do it the other way around. And I think that that's what happens to a lot of people who suffer with panic disorders, is you start to feel a little hint of your body anxiety, and it's like a snowball effect. As soon as you feel maybe the tightness of your chest, you start overthinking, oh my God, I'm going to have a panic attack. I'm going to panic right now. And it just heightens and heightens and heightens until inevitably you do feel that panic. And it goes from body anxiety to mind anxiety. You see what I mean? They're very interchangeable. One can trigger the other. They can happen at the same time. But I think how to heal each of them happens differently. I say this because I think a lot of the times, a lot of us can experience subconscious anxiety. This is when we don't really know what the source of our stress is, and it's to a very slight degree, but there are things that are really obvious that are happening from having this anxiety and feeling too stressed out internally and in your body. Things like clenching your jaw at night, having any gut issues, not being able to sleep properly at night, not having a good, diet or appetite, having body aches, especially up in your shoulders and your back, is clear examples of a lot of tension in your body, meaning you're having this subconscious release of cortisol in your body based on how stressed you are. So that's why I separated both mind and body anxiety, because I think there are times when you can only have one and not the other. And sometimes it takes a mixture of two different types of healing methods to be able to work through it. Now, I've spoken about how I have dealt with anxiety in that first episode, but like I said, I've gone through more experiences. I've learned more things, and I think that there's more to it now than I have spoken about in the past. What I have talked about previously is the concept of accepting your anxiety. It's the idea that a lot of the times when people are met with so much anxiety in one shot, your number one gut instinct is to find a way to get rid of it. A lot of people run to medication. A lot of people run to supplements. A lot of people run to instantly meditating and instantly trying to find something that will stop the feeling of anxiety because it is so overwhelming. Like, I understand you guys. I feel it too. I know how terrifying it is to feel anxiety. And I also know how desperately you want that feeling to go away in the moment. The roughest part about me knowing how to quote unquote heal this anxiety is that it's not a simple fix. It's not as easy as taking something. It's not as easy as, implementing one thing into your daily routine and then all of a sudden you won't feel this anxiety anymore. Because it's not coping with anxiety, it's accepting it. This is where I want to bring back Inside Out too. I'm sorry if you haven't seen it, but do watch it because I'm not going to spoil the whole entire thing. In this movie, they introduce the new emotion of Riley, our main character, as this little creature named anxiety. And she's extremely hectic. She wants to take control of all of the emotions. She wants to push all the emotions behind and follow only her, path on what the main character should do. She essentially wants to take complete control over the mind and follow her path. They show her thinking up tens of thousands of different negative outcomes and continuously ruminating on what could go wrong nonstop. They show her pushing all the other emotions away and banishing them to the suppressed emotions, and the only thing running the mind was anxiety. I thought this movie was so powerful in a sense, although it's a kid's fucking movie, I know that, but in the way that they were able to perfectly display the strength that anxiety has. Now, when I talk about accepting anxiety, this is the way that I want you guys to look at it. I know we all fucking hate anxiety. I do too. I know that it is one of the worst feelings you can experience in a day-to-day, and it's even worse because it's not real. You know that the fears that are being put in your mind, the feeling that you're experiencing is not because something is actually threatening you. Then again, sometimes when you don't know too much about anxiety and you are experiencing the feelings of it, it does feel fucking real. It feels like whatever issue you actually have in your life is life fucking threatening. And regardless of the fact, the feeling is awful. So when I ask you to accept it, I know that that's a hard task, and it's something that I'm still working on doing, because I think that's the only way to go about dealing with your anxiety, is understanding that one, anxiety was placed in the human body. Whatever you believe, whoever created us, God, for me, put anxiety within us to protect us, okay? So every time you feel anxious, the only thing your body is trying to do for you is protect you. And I think Inside Out 2 perfectly depicted that, because the character of anxiety was trying to protect the girl by going through all the worst case scenarios that could happen to her, finding ways that she could succeed. Literally, anxiety is trying its best for you to have a good life. That's the thing that you have to almost try and picture in your head, is that there's a little part of you somewhere. There's little Alex, there's little whoever is listening, sitting inside of your mind that's just extremely stressed out and anxious, but their only goal 24/7 is to protect you. And what we have to do as the bigger Alex, the bigger person that's in charge, is quiet the little anxious Alex and allow her to be accepted. Allow her to be acknowledged, and don't try and push her away. Don't try and push the anxiety. Don't try and get rid of it. Don't try to do anything you can to never feel it again, because the only thing that that's doing is strengthening the threat response that your anxiety is trying to protect you from. Here's an example. If you're feeling anxious over the fact that you have a huge test tomorrow, let's break it down. Your anxiety might be triggered from the belief that you will not succeed in life. That means that you might have a fear of failure. Now your anxiety is being triggered by these thoughts of, oh, maybe I will fail this exam tomorrow. Maybe I won't do good enough to pass this class. Maybe I won't, then you start catastrophizing. Maybe I won't make it to this university. Maybe I won't graduate. Maybe I won't get this job. Maybe I'll be homeless. Maybe I'll fears, right? And if you sit there with that anxiety and you say, okay, think about this very imaginatively, okay? But you say, hey girl, hey little anxiety, we're gonna be fucking fine. I'm gonna let you sit there. I'm gonna let you feel this scary feeling because I know it's gonna pass. I know that I'm gonna be okay. I physically understand that I am in no danger. There is no threat coming to me in this moment. It is only the threat that my anxiety is trying to show me so that it can protect me. It wants to protect me from what I believe, which is that I don't want to fail. So it's only doing something good, realistically. It's only trying to protect me. So if I can look at it as just that, as something that is actually trying to do something good for me, then I can accept the feeling. I can understand, as shitty as it is. I understand, as shitty as this feeling is, it is only trying to do something good for me. So I'm going to accept the experience, the feeling, the emotion, what's going on right now in this moment. And I'm going to keep trucking on. I'm going to keep doing exactly what I'm doing right now in this moment, which is probably studying for my exam or about to go to bed because I want to get enough sleep for my exam tomorrow. And then when I do my exam tomorrow, the anxiety will pass and I'll realize that, hey, it was not a threat after all. And little Alex, little anxiety in my mind is going to realize, oh my God, I didn't have a reason to freak out. I didn't have a reason to think, holy shit, I'm literally going to fail this. And over time, your mind, little anxious you, is going to become accustomed to the fact that I don't need to feel anxious every time an exam is coming up because I'm not actually in danger. The second you try to do something dramatic or drastic when you're feeling this anxiety, you're reinforcing that little anxious part of you that, oh yeah, I am in danger. There is a threat. We need to get rid of this threat immediately. The second you try to avoid a situation that's giving you anxiety, you're once again reinforcing to your mind, I can't do this. You're right, anxiety. I literally cannot participate in this X, Y, and Z tomorrow because I'm too afraid to do it and I will fail. I will not be able to make friends. I will, whatever it is you're feeling anxious about. If you try to avoid it, if you try to, immediately do a meditation to get rid of the anxiety, if you try to find someone to help you cope with it and immediately make the feeling go away, you're telling yourself, I need to protect myself 24/7 from this threat. It's such a backwards feeling. Explaining this is also really hard because I know a lot of us are what the fuck? Why do I have to reverse psychology my anxiety? And I'm so sorry, but you do. Out of my lifelong experience working with my anxiety, this is the way that I have realized I need to go about it. And it's not only just not reacting to the anxiety, it's accepting it too. It's realizing that it's a part of you. And when you see its benefits, quote unquote, what it can actually do for you, it becomes something you can look at positively over time. And once you start to look at your anxiety in a positive light, once you start to accept it, the hold it has on you is this big. It's tiny. It doesn't have control over you anymore. Like anything in life, when you accept it, it can't hurt you. So, like I said, there's this level of acceptance. There's a level of not trying to constantly fight it. I'm not saying never meditate. I'm not saying don't go and find people to help and cope with the feeling. I'm saying don't do it to get rid of the anxiety. Do it to benefit yourself. Do it because you know it'll help you in the long run. Meditation doesn't work in the sense of if you do it right now, it'll cure you. It works in the long run, right? It helps you to stay mindful. It helps you to stay living in the present. And anxiety works when you're not living in the present. So it is a very good benefit to your life, but you shouldn't look at it as a coping mechanism. You should look at it as something that's going to help improve your life in general, not just to escape anxiety, to help you overall be a mentally healthier person. Finding people to speak to and to talk to about your hardships and your mental health issues and your anxiety. This is all extremely positive. But once again, if you're using it as your cope to get rid of your anxiety, it's only going to reinforce that fear and that threat response. So think about it in that way. Also, I think you need to meet yourself with so much kindness when you are dealing with anxiety. I woke up 2-3 days ago. Actually, the first day I came back from my vacation. And I think now that I'm looking back on it, I was just having so much fun while I was gone. I was living so carefree. I was with my boyfriend. Like, I felt so safe and like happy throughout that time frame. And then I came home and I was like, holy shit, back to reality. I have so much work to do. I have so much to catch up on. Like, I have this feeling of like dread the second I woke up. I missed my boyfriend for some reason. I'm like, what the fuck? I literally saw him for a week straight, like connected by the hip. And I'm like, why am I sad right now? Like, there was just so much emotion that was happening to me the moment I woke up that I was overwhelmed with a really intense feeling of anxiety. And the reason I wanted to talk about this in this episode was because I literally forgot. About all these things, how to heal this anxiety, how to move forward, how to work with it, the anxiety. Like, I forgot about it. I woke up that morning and the only thing I could think to myself was, why am I like this? Why does it always come back to me feeling terrible? Like, I feel unmotivated. I don't like my life. I can't do things by myself. I'm not capable of this and that. It was just this negative talk 24/7 in my head. And it makes me sad to think about it right now because it's like I've learned so much in my experience with anxiety that I wish I was kinder to myself. So that's why I push this so much, because if you meet yourself with kindness, you're going to be able to work through your anxiety 10 times faster. The second your mind instantly goes to, why am I like this? Why do I have to experience life this way? I suck, like I can't handle stressful situations. The second you start to tell yourself these things, your anxiety grows that much stronger, because once again, you're reinforcing all these things that you can't do. So your anxiety is going to try to protect you. It's going to try and think of all these scenarios in your future that you're not going to be able to do. I started thinking like, oh my God, I miss my boyfriend after, like, for example, I saw him for 7 days straight. Now I'm home and I miss him. What's going to happen in the future if I go on a trip, if he goes on a trip? I'm not going to see him for XYZ amount of time. And I started to get anxious. And I know for a fact I'd be fine if that happened. But in these moments, the anxiety takes over your mind and starts telling you you're not fucking capable of these things. You're not going to be able to handle this. I also started thinking like, how am I gonna how am I gonna move out? How am I gonna make money? Like, I don't like what I'm doing right now. Like, all these negative thoughts. And like, that's the thing. In your 20s, your life is confusing. You don't know what's gonna happen. But if you're constantly trying to find reasons to be afraid, you're gonna be met with this anxiety, because you're hitting yourself with the most unkind thoughts, unkind words, and you're wondering why you are the way that you are. And you know, I came to a really big realization the other day, is that I definitely have not fully accepted my anxiety, because although I can get through these rougher days, these rougher patches, these maybe sometimes I have a couple weeks where I feel anxious, like it comes back, right? And that's my downfall. That's where I still don't meet myself with enough kindness and acceptance, is because it is a part of me, and I should understand and accept that, yeah, sure, it can come back. And like I said, once I do get to that like mindset, the anxiety won't have as much power over me. Don't get me wrong, I think I've made a lot of progress in my life, like such an unbelievable amount of progress, but this is still something that I'm working on, which is why I wanted to explain that to you guys, because if you feel similar in the way that you always end up feeling anxious in some way, shape, or form throughout your life, that means we haven't fully accepted it yet. That means we haven't fully met ourselves 100% with kindness and acceptance, because there's a part of ourselves that we still don't like. And I'm going to continue to work on that. And I think the best way to work on it is to nonstop appreciate who you are, love yourself, understand you have your fucking flaws. This is actually the end scene of Inside Out too. But you have your flaws, you have things, you make mistakes, you're not a perfect person. But acceptance is what matters the most. Understanding that this is who you are. You want people in life, we want people to accept us so badly for everything that we are. We want our partners to love us wholeheartedly. We want our family members to accept everything about us. Do you accept yourself? Do you accept everything about you? I don't think anyone in your life is going to meet you with that much acceptance until you've done that for yourself first. I hope that all made sense to you guys, but now we need to go on to the body anxiety. I added this, and I touched on a little bit when it came to meditation and stuff like that, but I added this to it because, like I said, there are experiences that happen in your life where it's super subconscious, the anxiety you're feeling, it's built up stress, it's built up tension. And I also think that if you're a person who experiences a lot of anxiety like myself, during the times where you don't feel mentally as anxious, it is really, really beneficial for you to focus on relieving stress within your body so that the body anxiety doesn't activate, quote unquote, your mental anxiety in the future. Like I said, there's two different spectrums to deal with. I think that when it comes to mental anxiety, therapy is a really good option. And when it comes to body anxiety, things like yoga, meditation, and breath work are really, really beneficial. I think those help you so much in your lifetime. I think taking control of your diet, what you consume, you don't realize it. And maybe you do. Maybe you do as you get older. When I was younger, I never realized how much what I consumed into my body made an impact. And I think it was because I was just very not self-aware of anything that was going on. I would randomly feel shit one day, but I wouldn't really question why. And nowadays, I can so clearly see that what's going on in my body is such a big reflection of how I feel mentally and physically. So I think that taking control of your diet, what you consume, things that you are taking in terms of supplements, how your hormones affect you. If you're a woman watching, this is going to make such a big fucking difference in your mental health. Go speak to a doctor about it, which is on my to-do list. I have had ovarian cysts in the past, and I have such deep feeling that my hormones are off, and I want to get it checked out by a doctor and be able to take any kind of supplements that I need to help me out. But I also am working on like adjusting my diet, not to look good, but literally to feel good. So yeah, things like that. Learning about anxiety, if this is something that is very new to you guys, is my number one biggest tip. If you're just starting to experience anxiety and you want to know more about it, read about it, read about how the mind works, listen to more podcasts, listen to my first podcast that I was talking about and see if that helps. I have a lot of other episodes that have to do with anxiety. There's probably other podcasts obviously out there that talk about it. Learn. The more you know about something, the less fear you're going to have towards it. Obviously exercise as well is going to make a big difference. I think when it comes to tension that's building up in your body, one great way to release it is exercise. There's so much that happens to you energetically when you are sitting around all day and constantly having this negative anxiety spiral. The adrenaline, the cortisol, the everything that's building up in your body, and then you go to sleep like that and you'll wake up in the morning and boom, it's going to continue. When you find ways to expel this energy and to reduce the amount of tension and adrenaline and stress that you're harboring inside of you, it's going to overall benefit you so much. So yeah, these are many different ways to heal not only your mind, but your body anxiety, and together they just are anxiety as a whole. I'm on a journey right now that I want to share with you guys. I have it in my notes. I'm on a 75 heal. Not 75 hard, 75 heal, baby. So the other day I was like, I want to be healthier. I want to prioritize things that have to do with my body anxiety. I think it'll just make my life easier. I think that I want to be an overall healthier person. I'm not getting any younger. I know I'm not old, but I want to get into these patterns now in my life before I'm older and then I start to reap all the sorrows of the stress, probably in my wrinkles on my face. But like I said, I'm going to make a doctor's appointment. I want to get some hormonal tests, but 75 heal, if you guys want to join in with me. I need to mark it down on my calendar. I started 2 days ago, but I didn't even put my end date. 8 hours of sleep daily. Shouldn't be too hard. I sleep a lot. Balanced meals with protein, fat, complex carbohydrates, and fiber, specifically in the morning. Caffeine after breakfast, which I've been doing a good job at. 10-minute meditation, which actually I should maybe do after this. 1 cycle syncing workout. Cycle syncing is a whole another thing. I might make a podcast about it one day if I end up actually figuring it out. But that means during menstruation, walking or yoga, follicular yoga or weight training, ovulation, high intensity weight training, and luteal low impact training or yoga. 80 ounces of water per day. My water bottle is 32 ounces, so that means 2.5 almost. A little bit more than 2.5 of those water bottles. Alcohol and sugar in moderation. I have had so much fucking sugar in the past week being on vacation, such an ungodly amount. You guys would be horrified. Maybe that's why I came home and I was feeling an intense anxiety spiral as soon as I woke up, the very first day after vacation. So yeah, less sugar. I think that fucks with your gut so much more than you'd believe. And I'm working on a little vitamin lineup. As of right now, we're doing probiotics in the morning, iron when I'm on my period because I'm literally iron deficient, magnesium at night, and GABA, which is a stress relieving supplement that I used to take a couple years ago, but I never really saw any benefits, so I thought maybe I'd try again because I still have so many left. And I want to be outside for at least 30 minutes a day. So that is my 75 heal. If you guys want to know, if you guys want to see it, DM me. I'll send you a screenshot of it. But yeah, I hope this podcast helped you guys out. If there's anything you want to write down right now to take away from it, is do not cope with your anxiety, accept it, meet yourself with a lot of kindness, work on mindfulness, work on breath work, exercise, you're keeping your diet nice and clean, and go to therapy if you can. Okay, I guess that's it. I love you guys. I feel just better about myself after this episode. I feel like I needed to have a little rant. I needed to remind myself of what I've already learned so that I can move forward in the same direction and continue to believe in myself, truly. Because anxiety will really make you feel like you can't believe in yourself whatsoever. And I want you guys to know that if you are experiencing this level of anxiety, it's because your mind is smart enough to protect you. So be strong enough to accept it. Okay. I love you guys so much. Thank you for being here. Come and subscribe to the podcast at Between You and Me Pod on YouTube and at Between You and Me Podcast on Instagram. Leave me questions anywhere on either one if you guys want certain episodes to be directed towards a question or subject. And yeah, I love you guys so much. I'll talk to you next week. Bye.